On this special episode of Supercars Talk, I'm going to run through my driver rankings for the 2020 season. In this weird and wonderful year, we're probably about midway, so we've got a general kind of feel of how people are going. I've had a few discussions with people lately about kind of who should replace Fabian Coulthard and who could win in that car and things like that. And I thought it'd be a good chance to kind of, put pen to paper, put down a bit of a driver ranking system. Now, I've run through, I've got A plus, A, B plus, B, C, D, E, and F, as they're kind of like the grading back in the old school days. Basically, your A drivers are guys that the criteria that I've kind of put in there. A is guys who put them in a Triple Eight car, they can win the championship. B drivers are you guys in a Triple Eight car could go and win 2, 3, 4, 5 races during the year. Maybe not good enough to take the championship, but definitely would be consistent front runners. You see guys, kind of the guys who would maybe win one race over the championship. Your D's are more your podium getters. Your E's are, top 5 kind of drivers, on a good day. And your F's are the guys who, even if you put them in a proper Triple Eight Red Bull car, they're not going to do anything. We'll start with those guys. Alex Davison, mainly because he's passed it. Gary Jacobson, because it's Gary Jacobson. I think I've been pretty blunt explaining about Jacobson before. And Kostecki and Goddard, they just seem to be a bit out of their depth. Not sure if it's all just the equipment, but yeah, they're getting an F. E rating, no surprises here. It is the Brad Jones pair of Macauley Jones and Jack Smith. They might run kind of a top 10 if they were in the, as I said, I think the Triple Eight cars, the Triple Eight Red Bull cars are still probably the best in the field. And that's, if you imagine them in one of those cars, maybe top 10s. That's it. So they get an E. D ranking. These are the guys who you might not see on the podium, but they could probably cop a few top 5s for the season. The Super 2 champions, funnily enough. We have Forwood, Hazelwood, and Pither. Now people are going to say, oh, well, Hazelwood got his podium at Sydney and... Okay, the system might be a little bit flawed. This was made up in my head. And, someone's got to get a D. These guys haven't superly impressed. Not to say that they couldn't move up in the future either. Really, this is Todd's first year at a proper team, let's say, especially because he had no teammate the last 2 years. And that absolute mess that was the first year at Matt Stone Racing in the main game. Forward, he's just got to learn off Chaz, and Pither, well, his career stalled and then it started again and then it stalled and it's kind of so, and he's in that Team Sydney rocket ship this year. So all of these guys, in a couple of years' time, I fully expect these guys, maybe not that one, but these two, I fully expect them to be at least a B grade. Right now, they're getting a D from me. The C category, these are guys who podiums, really, in the Triple Eight machinery. We have Winterbottom, Pye, LeBroq, and Holdsworth. You may ask, didn't Winterbottom win a championship? Hasn't Pye and LeBroq won, and Holdsworth won races? Yeah, well... I'm talking non-special circumstances, just a normal out-and-out race in Triple Eight equipment. These guys could get a podium. under normal circumstances, I can't see them winning just on, outright pace. So that's why they've got that. A couple of years ago, Winterbottom definitely would have been a B. Pie might have been down this D. It's hard. LeBroq, Holdsworth passed it. LeBroq, I wasn't holding my breath for him this year. He's probably doing a little bit better than what I was expecting, but then he probably is looking like the worst of the Tickford cars as well. So, yes, he is new to it. Lee has had a year at it. Waters has had a long time at it. But someone who's a B driver basically has jumped in the car and has already, taken the lead in that team. So they're my C-grade drivers. B-rated drivers. Rick Kelly, Andre Heimgartner, Anton De Pasquale, Cam Waters and Fabian Coulthard. These are the guys who, given Triple Eight Red Bull equipment, they could go out and win races during the year. It's pretty self-explanatory, I think. And I do, we've seen one of those win race this year. I would not be surprised if we saw all of them win a race in their current equipment this year. They are pretty good drivers. B is a pretty good rating for them. Some people may not agree, but I mean, Kelly did win in an Ultima only 2 years ago. So, I think he's still there. He does. It's not like Jaime's destroying him, and everybody rates Jaime really high. Coulthard only gets a B. He is currently getting destroyed by his teammate, and Waters should be leading the pack unquestionably at Tickford, and he's not. So that's why he's down in the B rating. B plus. Now, these are the guys who they're probably not quite going to win the championship anymore, or ever were going to, but I think they're slightly better than these guys. So we've got Nick Percat, James Courtney, in brackets Will Davison, because I had Will Davison as the dark horse for the championship this year if Tickford were good enough, and I already think that James Courtney's probably the lead driver in the Tickford group, so that's why they're there. And Nick Percat's doing amazing things in the BJR car. Would be very interesting to see if he could, prove me wrong if he was in at Triple Eight equipment, or maybe Penske should try and get him in, because I think Percat is probably the top driver that would be somewhat available to Penske, because when we go through the A drivers in a second, I don't think any of them really are available to Penske. I didn't plan the board out the best. So my A drivers. Now, these are the guys who, if they were in Red Bull cars, they could win the championship. And a couple of them have proved it already. We have Shane Van Gisbergen, Jamie Whincup, Chaz Mostert, and David Reynolds. As long as Dave Reynolds' head was in the right space, he'd be good for a championship in one of those cars. Erebus not quite there at the moment, and his headspace isn't quite there. But I think if the stars aligned for Dave, he is basically as good as anyone, except for possibly someone who hasn't been mentioned that might be getting a special rating. And as I said, really Penske needs to replace Coulthard with someone, and these are the, to me, they're the best four in the category, other than Coulthard's teammate. And really, he owns Triple Eight, so he ain't going nowhere. He just signed a long-term contract. Mostert just signed 2 or 3 years with Walkinshaws, and I think part of him signing with Walkinshaws, they would have put in clauses that you can't just spend a year here and bugger off to Penske. You are here long-term. And Decade Dave is at Erebus for his decade, so he ain't going anywhere. He probably wouldn't be wanted at Penske either, the way he is. So essentially then, if you are going to replace Courtney with someone, your best choice is Percat, which as far as I know, he has a longish term contract with BJR, but you're never going to buy Reynolds out of his contract. These two you're not going to buy out. You're not going to buy out Mostert, essentially. So then you know, essentially you start looking down who's available. Do you want Courtney at Penske? Probably not. Probably not Will Davison. You probably want to look a bit more to the future. Kelly isn't going to leave his team. So then after Percat, essentially you've got Heimgartner, De Pasquale, maybe Waters, but these guys are in a similar position to Coulthard, in my opinion. These can have potential to lift. I think Coulthard's at his ceiling. I can't see him lifting further. I think he's where he is, where the same with Kelly's not going to improve at all. These three have possibly got the potential to increase, and if we did see them in a top line car with top line engineers and everything, maybe they might surprise me, and we might be talking about them as A's when they replace Coulthard next year. And finally, no surprises here, my A+ goes to Scott McLaughlin. Basically because he's not in a Triple Eight car and he's leading the championship. So imagine if someone put him in a Triple Eight car. He has got the advantage of being in a Penske car and Ludo. But I did use the Triple Eight thing as, I think overall, you know, they do kind of have two cars up the front all the time. You know, some people have accused Penske of maybe favouring one car over the other, but then if you had Scott McLaughlin and Fabian Coulthard in the team, yeah, you're going to gravitate towards the faster guy. So it's pretty simple. But that's where I think the drivers kind of sit. You know, it's open for debate. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Supercarstalk@gmail. Do you agree with my order? Do you think I'm a complete idiot? Do you think Percat should be higher? There's no way he could be lower, could he? Yeah, have I got anyone totally out of whack? Like, do you really like Jacobson or something like that? I mean, a few people have a real hard-on for Alex Davison, and yeah, probably, you know, it is what it is. So let me know what you think. That's my driver ratings. Might change soon, but who knows. Until next time, I'll see you later.